lines. Hey, Nathan.
How you doing?
Hey, man. Yeah, I'm doing all right. Thanks for joining.
Oh,
Oh wow.
I'll
Hey
be really
Nathan.
rude and say straight away it's because of heliosceptic that I joined, not you. That's really rude.
What? What did you say?
I don't know it. I've spoken to you before, Arwin, but I don't know
Yeah,
heliosceptic, and I've seen him a couple of times. I recognise the avatar. Why am I so quiet? Can you turn me up a bit, Arwin? I don't know why I'm so quiet when I use my iPad.
I,
But
how do I do that?
you get a on the left-hand side of the Hangout. There's like as you move your mouse over it, there's a whole load of tabs that appear.
Oh,
One
the
of
control room?
yeah,
Ah,
control room.
yeah. Okay, I'll put it up a bit.
And I don't know why. It's just this iPad. It's just
There it
recently
is.
updated.
Is
It's
it
better
better?
now.
I don't know. I can't tell from this end, but I can just see my little lights hardly moving.
Yeah, it's louder now.
Okay,
Cool.
perfect. Anybody else need a? How's my sound doing?
You sound perfect. You sound beautiful, Aaron.
Okay.
I was just intrigued with heliosceptic because I've seen, as I say, I've seen you around on a couple of other shows. I think.
Mhm.
Well, I
Yeah.
recognise your
What
avatar.
did I do now?
Nothing. I just didn't know your story, and then you said you've been doing it for ages. And as soon as you said that, I thought, right, I'll jump on and have a chat with you then, because if you've been doing it for ages, you probably know a lot.
Yeah. Well, let's hear him out. How long have you been into this kind of stuff?
Well, I've been into I've been following the libertarian philosophy since prior to um, prior to the Bush election. Even though I did vote for Bush the first time,
Hmm.
only because I was voting against Gore,
Oh yeah.
and I don't even vote anymore at this point. But
What's
back
libertarian?
then, that was pardon me. Go ahead.
What's libertarian?
Hmm.
What is libertarian?
Libertarian is basically, I'll explain it for a moment, and you can correct me if I'm wrong in something. It's basically
Sure.
a concept of limited government, low taxes, uh, control to the people. It's basically a few steps away from anarchy, but in a way that it's still functional, and it does also match up with nationalism if necessary. Anarchism does not, because it's totally unloyal. But yeah, that's basic the concept. It's limited government, uh, get rid of the bureaucracies, low taxes to stimulate the economy, more open markets, but also some protectionism, because with a lot of freedom comes a lot of people that will try to use and abuse it. So am I on the right path there?
You're on the right path, man. That's pretty much the philosophy.
Yeah. And also very important that uh, government doesn't dictate rules to you, so they don't make uh, bills to tell us what we can do. They completely leave it to us, as long as it sticks to the base philosophy that nobody gets hurt. And
One
if they
and
do,
in
then
my
they can sue you, and that's yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that's basically because especially like the United States. I mean, as far as our, the way I've followed the Libertarian Party now. There are so many diverse views and people in the Libertarian Party that it's almost uncomfortable sometimes. So,
But that's a
so
consequence
I've
of.
been to meetings and stuff. So it's,
Yeah.
I mean, and that's kind of the way it is around with us sometimes. But
But I think that we're
in
all
America,
getting. Oh, sorry.
but in America, with the Constitution, it's we feel like the pure meaning of the Constitution is more, as far as at the federal level. Now, I mean, we have 50 states. I mean, that's a lot of different jurisdictions. So, I mean, at the federal should support the state not financially, in my opinion, the way that they do now. That it's more everything goes down to the local levels, but there should be some type of governance there, and the Constitution is a limitation on the federal government's infringing on the states' rights, which if I don't like living in whatever state and if I don't like their laws, I can go somewhere else. But you can't do that now because the federal bureaucracy here is so overpowering. I'm not saying that our local elections don't matter anymore, but I mean, our whole philosophy as Americans, if you go by the original American philosophy or intent, libertarian idea of American style government, then we're so far away from that it's just hard to move anybody into that type of mindset.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, there's a federal invasion, and the entire media apparatus supports it. So it's basically an internal cultural invasion. It's kind of funny. It's ironic when you look at it, because, well, that's exactly what Alex Jones has been harping on forever. Like, look, the federals are taking over. They're manipulating everyone into accepting it, and it is going on. It is what kept me going back to him, despite his noisiness and his rage at times, where he's extremely unreasonable about things. But yeah, it kept me coming back, because he was still right about so much, and still is, I guess.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I was an Alex Jones listener obviously for.
Well, since the Bush era.
Actually, I stopped listening after I found Flat Earth, about a year and a half ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, same here. I stopped listening as soon as I found Flat Earth. And I think the reason was because, I mean, you're talking about political things, which is something I've never, ever had any interest in. I've never voted, never held any interest. It's only since finding out the Earth is flat that you start looking into how you're controlled and who is controlling you. And that's really been all I've looked into pretty much since finding out the Earth is flat. So, it kind of pisses me off when people say, what does it matter? And it's like, well, it matters hugely, because that leads you on to realise that you're living in 1984.
Yeah.
That's what you basically realise when you start along a path, depending on who you are. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people that just literally sit around and watch video after video, and it doesn't actually make them realise anything. They just, are told new information, new sources. There are out there like that.
You know what my favorite show after I dropped Alex Jones was? Mechanics of the Fourth Wall.
Yeah.
Is that so?
Well, you were one of the first shows, so yeah, I too followed you. And Patricia. Well, it started basically with me with Mark Sargent. I still love the guy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Mechanics of the Fourth Wall for me, has been continued by Infinite Plane Society. So my purpose in wanting to do that show was to expose the deception of religion. And I can only say this now since coming across Infinite Plane Society, and say that it's the same control system. It's just an evolution of the religious control system.
How do you mean?
Well, you'd have to watch, I don't know, a couple of hours of anything on Infinite Plane Society. Just subscribe to Infinite Plane Society and watch it if you like Mechanics of the Fourth Wall, because that's what he talks about. That's all he talks about. And that's all I wanted to talk about on Mechanics of the Fourth Wall. Yes, it spanned into quite a few Flat Earth subjects as well, obviously. But yeah, for me, Infinite Plane Society is the evolution for somebody who is a fan of that show, because that's where I wanted the information to go. And he's stuff I didn't know. It was stuff that I was trying to piece together as we went along, and never really did until Infinite Plane Society came along. And I was saying things like the devil isn't real, and Christianity's a nonsense and all that, and we got a lot of stick for it. But that's the why. The more important part of the story was why, and he's given us that. So, I mean, I'm a really big fan of Infinite Plane Society. He's good at marketing his channel as well. He's getting popular pretty quickly. But yeah, it's the end of the route for me. The why are we being deceived about the shape of the Earth has been explained to me by Infinite Plane Society. So, and that's like I say, it's like mechanics show.
I'll check it out. I'll check it out. I haven't seen him before.
I tend to agree with him in most parts, and I was inside religion since I was born and everything. So, and I knew about the Babylonian control system, the roots of it. I mean, at this point, it's questioning how far back it was, in history. But when I first came on Flat Earth, and I was going on Free Channel, I was trying to tell him about the Babylonian, control system, how it's linked to Freemasonry and stuff. I just wasn't as good as expressing it as everybody else is. I like to start the conversation and I ask a question, and then somebody that's really versed in it can talk about it, so that is the biggest part of it now. But that doesn't necessarily mean that, because when I was inside Christianity, I knew that, but I still, had an understanding of the Bible, and I believed it. I'm not saying that's exactly what I believe anymore, but it's a very sensitive subject to a lot of people that come into the Flat Earth topic. So it may, I don't know.
Yeah.
if mixing it with flat earth, I mean, even though they coincide and it describes the entire manipulation, it's a very controversial topic to introduce people to flat earth, which, I mean, and then once you get into flat earth, you get into the, you know, other people you want to go in where you hear, or even Christians can have their own flat earth thing, you know, because as far as like the general, which this is, I mean, we're talking about whatever tonight, but if you know, have a show or whatever, and that's your show, you know, and then Christians have a show, and they do now for the most part. But anyway, I just don't.
Yeah, there are many.
I'm not saying I want to discuss that, because I mean, I have a lot of friends, you know, even in the flat earth, they're Christians. So do you, Nathan. So yeah, but anyway.
Yeah. What did you want to say, Nathan?
Well, I was just going to sort of back up exactly what Helioskeptic said. It's one of those you root into asking more questions is opened up through finding out one of, or I think the biggest deception mankind's ever had foisted upon them, which is the globe deception. And once you know that opens your eyes to looking at a lot of different things. And for me, you know, I'm the same as you. I was a Christian. I was raised Christian. My uncle's a pastor. I was in churches all the time. My parents had Bible meetings at my house while I was growing up. You know, it was very, very Christian upbringing. And I left that because I sort of thought it was all nonsense as I was growing up and becoming a teenager. You come to Flat Earth, and for a couple of weeks, you know, I was like, yeah, it backs up what the Bible said. And I knew it reasonably well, nowhere near as well as some of the people in Flat Earth. You know, you've got Knowledge Scavenger and people like her, whose knowledge is exemplary. You know, it's it's just amazing when you hear it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I still tune into those shows. I enjoy them. And, you know, when we've got people who make courtroom examples, you know, preponderance of evidence and all of that sort of stuff. If you're in a courtroom setting, when you've got evidence, it doesn't just get taken out of account. It doesn't get taken off the books. You know, it doesn't get ripped out of the bundle when something comes along that makes it seem less likely to be true. So it's not like we've got this book, the Bible, and suddenly if everyone says, well, actually, no, that's definitely part of a previous control structure, it doesn't give any less validity to the people who are studying it. You know, it changes their direction, but it doesn't mean that suddenly it's going to get burned. We're not going to have book burnings. That's not going to happen. We'll still have people who are scholars in those subjects. But understanding that it's a control structure, the old control structure, is key for me to Flat Earth. You know, that's if you stop at that point, well, it's not even stopping it. To me, now, I see it as a step backwards. You're stepping back into an old control structure to fall back on Christianity. So therefore, you know, that's frightening.
Well, Nathan, can I react on that? I think that to a certain degree you are right, but I am now, like, I have not been raised a Christian, I'll tell you. Like, up to such a point that I really didn't know anything about it when I probably should, when I got involved into really weird stuff. I should probably have known some things because they asked me about it and I just didn't know. But right now, I'm now 37 and I have been going to church, but I'm approaching it in a different way, because now, and I talked about it with the Vegan Warrior too, is I don't take it literal anymore. And whenever I notice that people are trying to speak it literal, it's literally two different types of information. There is dogmatic information and there is the ancient information. And the Bible is full of ancient information, and it's still there, but it's also mixed in with a lot of suggestions and a lot of dogma that clearly doesn't really belong there. And the more I get into it, the more certain of this I am. It's like, hey, this is very special. This is like a sentence out of a big mythology, but it's just stuck in between there. It's just a snippet, and it's in there, and then it's like placed next to another story and another story, and then the way it is presented, there's a suggestion in this. But the actual information, to me, feels very, very real, although it's been watered down, not changed, but watered down and cut up in a way that you can't really totally understand what it originally was. Like, as it were, if you'd have like a big raw gem, you could cut it into pieces and then cut it out, and you'd have this magnificent gem. But yeah, it was originally part of a bigger thing. And when you look at the gem and you're a real expert, you can even tell what type of structure was around it, that kind of thing. And this is what I'm now trying to do with all the Bible stuff. It's just I see it and I see this is dogma, this is crap, this is from this type of controller, this suggestion, and this is other stuff.
You can take it one step further with your analogy. So not only has it started off as one big rock and then been made into smaller rocks, the people who have done it have cut the rock in a particular way.
Yeah.
The light shines through in a certain way.
Duh! That's gem cutting.
Yeah.
It's always like that. Yeah.
So, I mean,
it's been politically edited very elaborately and multiple times by multiple empires. So yeah, it's.
This is Paula Knowledge Scavengers writer post. I mean, I know Heliosceptic said he wanted to change the subject, and I was hoping to bring something else up that was in chat, because somebody mentioned that Tim Osman, quote unquote Tim Osman, was in Vegan Warriors chat, and they were like, "Oh, it's an outrage that YouTube said it. You know, you shouldn't be having him on a second time." And
what?
Well, I'll phrase it as a question in a sec. But it's just something I've noticed, which is that, you know, not knowing things, you know, I think that's wonderful. It might sound to some like really weird, but you find out the Earth is flat and you realise how little you know. Therefore, I'm all for asking questions. And a second ago, Heliosceptic said, "Well, I'm just good at posing a question and then getting the answer." Well, for me, it's like, yeah, man, what's wrong with that? That's what it's all about. You know, the simplest of things now have a question mark at the end of them, where before everything had an answer. Everything was Big Daddy government would tell you how it was. Yeah. And you didn't need to worry about it.
And we trusted them. We trusted them to provide us with the answers, and that's what we based our entire view on.
Sure, but yeah, so to get my question in, so when it comes to people like Tim, quote unquote, Tim Osman, and there's a whole load of other people that are not flat Earth believers, but have wonderful information. In fact, a lot of them will be detractors. They'll say that they don't, you know, they are anti-flat Earth. But I'm all for talking to those people as well. You know, a lot of them have got really good information, and people will ridicule them in the same way we get ridiculed, and that kind of frustrates me. I just wondered how you two felt about that.
I've talked to them, and just like I'm talking to you guys, you know, I never fought with them, so I don't care what people think about. I mean, I've had several conversations with Tim Osman and a couple of with Atheist Rex and all that, and they've. I mean, unless it's, you know, during if it's a small hangout, you know, or a live hangout, and it's like Atheist Rex and you talking, he really I mean, he likes to put on a show, so. If there's a bunch of people, or if you say something that he thinks is absolutely ridiculous, I don't know. But anyway, I've had good conversations with them, and they do have good information. It actually strengthens your argument, you know, if you go research what they're talking about. So as far as talking to them, like Vegan did with Tim Osman, that's great, you know.
Yeah, this is it. I mean, they always seem to me like they're more triggered than me. They're always a head up. And you've got to question why they're hanging around this campfire. You know, most people who are comfortable in their beliefs aren't out on a YouTube video looking for the debunking of their belief. They're just not. They're comfortable with their belief and they're going about their lives happily. But yeah, a lot of these people, they seem to want to convert flat earthers. They want to convert us back to, you know, set us straight. It's like, why do you even care? Who cares? Why are you even here? And I know why they're here. You know why they're here. But that doesn't change that they're here and they're useful. You know, they've got great information. The amount of sly, sparkane information that I've got now under my hood, because I've asked him, you know, I've debated with him. You know, you just have to pick your way through the swearing and the vitriol. And
right, I try to watch every debate that I can find.
Yeah, definitely. But these people have got great information, and let them get triggered, you know, and don't be afraid of not knowing stuff, because even though they're belittling you, they'll do this often, especially with me, because I'm, you know, like I say, I'll put my hands in the air and go, I don't know anything now, you know, I know nothing, which is great. I've got a big smile saying it, because I can go out and say, well, what about this? How does that work? What about, does that really work the way that it's, you know, those are the kind of things that you can come up with. Now, yes, the people who are schooled in the heliocentric system will tell you how it is and call you an idiot for not knowing. But that doesn't make me feel stupid. And knowing how their explanation works is great. It means you can debate somebody better. You can fully understand how the bullshit works. But without knowing it, they just see that you not knowing it means that you haven't understood the system that's absolutely factually accurate. And it's like, just because you understand how bullshit works doesn't mean the bullshit's real. It just means you understand how the bullshit's been explained to you and can quote it like a parrot verbatim. Wonderful. Great. If there's maths involved, you can feel extra specially clever because you can do an equation as well to go along with it.
You can even analyze it. Like, if they're bringing on this typical story, and with their immediate response, "Hey, yeah, and you're stupid," you can easily then basically analyze the entire thing, tell them where they got it, likely, what they're thinking about it, and why they're saying it, why they say it. So we have psychology on our side because we're right. And I think flat Earth and psychology go hand in hand in that case. Like, all flat earthers would do good to have some level of psychological knowledge, because you're going to be confronted with craziness and indoctrination. And it's very useful to have this knowledge.
Yeah, we get called...
And trust in yourself.
We get called skeptical empiricists for wanting to experience things firsthand and verify them. And that's always going to be the undoing of any of these globeheads' arguments, because they can't verify this information. They have to take it on faith. And they don't like it when you tell them that they've got a belief system. They really hate that, because it's tantamount. Well, it is. It's essentially a religion. That's something else that IPS has been pointing out. Anybody who calls himself an atheist, they're not. They're a heliocentric believer. They are part of the one world religion that is heliocentrism. That's it. You are basically indoctrinated into the newest line of faith if you believe that you live on a globe. You are religious. You have a religious belief. And when you talk to these people, you go, well, have you verified that? And they'll get very angry and say, well, no, this is how we've extrapolated the data. Pick anything you like, spectroscopy with the stars and how their distances work and the shifting of the distances. Well, they're never going to verify any of this ever.
Yeah, sorry, but every time that's the problem with the whole globers is that every time you shove a thing in their face that absolutely breaks the whole thing, they then disregard it every time. It's so annoying. Like, especially the moon. The moon is like the biggest problem ever for them. And they just don't want to, like, all aspects about the moon is just completely contradicting the heliocentric model. Everything about it. Like, it gives off cold light. It can be full and almost right next to the sun. It's as big as the sun. It rotates around its axis perfectly towards you. It doesn't make any damn sense. While it's always everything about it is so illogical in the heliocentric model. Like, you just have to point at the moon and you basically break them.
But that's why they needed the moon landing so badly.
Yeah.
They never ever admit that.
That's their first escape always when you start about the moon.
Definitely.
Then, yeah.
I mean, my favourite globehead is Gem Panda, because if you hear him unchallenged, if he's challenged, he just will not talk about it. His attitude is to say that, oh, we just don't bring that up with flat earthers because it's a presupposition that it's fake. Whereas I heard him the other day on P. Mars's channel, and he wasn't challenged. He's there on his own, and he's expressing his beliefs freely and openly, and he absolutely buys it. He buys the moon landings, and that's just brilliant to me. I love that, because he'll detail it, because with any heliocentric nonsense, they've had a good solid 500 years to fill in the cracks in the pavement. It's riddled with cracks as a theory. It's, as you say, you're only going to look at the moon. It's riddled with errors, but they've had plenty of time to smear a layer of bullshit on top of that. And when someone's come along and sifted through that bullshit, they've smeared another layer of bullshit on top of that. And people like Gems Panda, all they're doing is regurgitating the bullshit. The cracks that are there to begin with, they've already been long exposed, and the smear of bullshit over the top, like the moon landings. All of us just go, well, that's obviously a complete nonsense. But people like Gem Panda occasionally get their opportunity to say, well, yeah, You've only got to look at their explanations for long enough and you'll believe it. It's like, no, you're having me on. Yeah, I'll go and ask that liar to tell me all about his lies in more detail. Yeah, right. That's never going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, by the way, did you ever consider that the American moon landing might not have been the first?
I don't think men have been to the moon.
No, but the thing is, I do remember that's even historically so, that apparently in an ancient Chinese empire, one emperor tried to make a giant rocket and he launched himself towards the moon.
No, that makes total sense. I mean, it would be because it would be, again, like the reboot that the heliocentric system is, the reboot of Christianity or the Judeo faith, whatever. What you've got, sorry, my iPad's collapsing. Lost my train of thought now. What was I babbling on about?
Moon landing?
Oh yeah, if you've got an emperor trying to promote that same lie, it's for the same reasons. And the whole purpose of the heliocentric lie is to anthropomorphize government, is to get you to worship your government as though it is your god. So it makes total sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're the keepers of the real knowledge.
The most recent Infinite Plane Society video came out today, and it was about Sunday and the day of the sun, or this Easter day that they worship in the same rebooted format in North Korea. So they're to anthropomorphize their leaders into being their gods. You know, and it's structured the exact same way. It's really obvious when you look at it in North Korea. So you go, yeah, but
it's an atheist theocracy.
It's the parallels that are obvious when you can see it in someone else's country. So to see it in Korea, you can say to yourself, "Wow, that's obviously nonsense." You know, Kim Jong-un is not this star that we need to worship like the people in North Korea worship him. But they do, and so do we. But it's only since you find out where the parallels lie. Like I say, just watch a load of Infinite Plane.
I'll definitely check out his channel. Yeah. So, what now? What next? Yeah, I was thinking, you know, and this is like, this was, yeah, I almost forgot. I was thinking, like, if there is a story that apparently somebody else in ancient times tried to go to the moon before, and we know the moon's probably not even physical, or whatever, I think it's not physical, then who knows, maybe in ancient times they actually convinced the people that they landed and got back, and they got away with it because it happened now. So who says they couldn't convince their people they actually did it?
I bet they did. Yeah. I bet you absolutely. You know, because it's necessary.
Yeah, you just take a big rock, say, "Look, I got this rock from the moon," and people say, "Whoa, man, he actually went there. That's amazing." Yeah. And he must be right because he's the emperor. So
exactly. And that's what we have now. Our government is our emperor, and they've told us that they've been there, and they show us a rock, and we go, "Yay!" Little flag.
Yeah, where is that flag? I've never seen it in my telescope. I don't have a telescope, but still. It's so funny that there's still NASA stories about what the heck. Oh, look at this alien face or whatever. Oh, could this be an ancient blah, blah, blah. On the moon, too. But they never show us the flag. Ever.
How do you mean?
Well, on the moon. They never show us, but they never even attempted to show it, like in the real moon footage. They could have just CGI'd it in there somewhere and just showed that, but they never did it, I think. Or am I wrong here? I could be wrong.
Well, you can look up some pictures they claim are real that they'll show you a little speck on there, and they call that the moon rover that they left there.
Oh, oh God! So
yeah, there's other pictures of different where you can go and look. Yeah, just look that up.
Yeah, that's from the LRO though, right? That's recent.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's fairly recent. Yeah.
Yeah, but now they do everything. They do everything.
Every time we come out with something, they make up a new picture, or they just go into crazy mode and start saying they found 18 new planets that are habitable and some of
18? No. 7.
No.
Very
Well,
specific.
7.
A new solar system with 7 planets. This is, but I think that it's a special announcement, because I think that this is going to be their attempt to basically colonize the outer islands beyond the South Pole. Because they need 7 planets, because those planets are still going to be there. It's the same holographic sun and moon and planets. So they have to make up an excuse for the solar system to be basically exactly the same. So they can migrate that lie as people are being dropped there as if they were being dropped on another planet.
And that's something quite ironic, because that's one of the earliest bits of subliminal programming you'll ever experience is for that lie. So twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Well, how appropriate is that? Because how do they find those planets? Well, they look at a star and they watch it reduce in light, and they deduce that that's a planet traveling in front of the star. And from that, they can get all sorts of information about the planet. But essentially what they're doing is they're watching stars twinkle. That's what they're doing to deduce that those planets are there. It's the biggest load of bullshit ever. Again, totally unverifiable. You can't check any of this. They're just concluding that that's what it is based on the way it fucking twinkles.
Well, the planets do kind of move on their own. They do really move as the moon does.
You're talking about these exoplanets that are in these long away,
no,
far away.
No, but that's just what they say. It's like, oh yeah, we found a solar blah. That's always blah. Oh, wait, you mean that how they deduce theoretically that they're in a faraway star, there are planets there?
Based on how much the star dims, so it's literally twinkle, twinkle, little star.
No, but that's just 100% made up. It's complete bullshit. It's not. That's not how they do it. They just completely make it up.
That is what they're doing. I mean, this is the thing. So when you can't just throw out complete bullshit. You know, this is something I've been annoyed at the moment when people go around calling people CIA shills. You know, if you're gonna lie, at least come up with a decent backstory and some bullshit that goes along with it.
Yeah, or give me the money. Come on, if I'm a shill, then where's my payment, damn it?
No, forget, I'm not talking about I'm talking about the people that go around making the accusation. So that they're just making up that these planets exist. Well, no, they deduce it from information, so that if you're to look into the backstory, at least there is some substance to the story. It doesn't make it real. It just means an explanation. It might be a plausible explanation. It doesn't mean it's real also. You know, but that's for you to decide. You know, if back to your court scenario, at the end of it, the judge decides whether or not he accepts the story. So your acceptance of the story is what really matters. You know, the fact that whoever, a globe head, is explaining it in great detail and giving you the maths to back it up, and it's all makes sense, it all adds up, all the numbers square and all the circles are right and wonderful. Does it mean it's real? Well, that's for you to decide. If the evidence is absolutely compelling and you can verify it, then you'd be a fool not to accept it. For me, there's nothing about the globe lie that I now look at and go, yeah, that's verifiable. Yeah, I can double check that, no problem. Whenever there's anything that they can double check on Earth, it comes down to some absolutely ridiculous equipment. Even going back a few hundred years, you know, the Cavendish experiment. Try and put a Cavendish experiment together. You're joking, right? Now imagine trying to do that, 150 years ago. Imagine how much that would cost. It's sort of precision engineering required alone. You know, no normal person could afford that. And what do we have today? Well, we've got rockets and we've got CERN. You know, how are you going to replicate any of this stuff? You're joking.
Yes, but in my opinion, it should not. They shouldn't have to try that hard to find the curvature of the Earth. That's the ridiculous part. It's so fucking hard to find because you can't. It's not there.
Yeah, exactly. It's obvious.
Something else. Curve is just that's the whole perspective thing. Just it seems like a curve until you look deeper into it. So they rely heavily on that. I think that the curve of the horizon, it looks like a curve. It could be mistaken for a curve, and that works really well for a lot of people. So
That's the limits of your vision.
Yeah, but just also just how it feels, what you see.
Yeah.
It seems like
Right.
it's disappearing behind the horizon. So it's a basic thing. Any kid could see, like, hey, it's disappearing, and then draw that conclusion.
And since that you believe that it is going behind the curve, then you see it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Until someone points out that that's not the way it works.
Yeah, just zoom in, it's still there. Yeah, indeed.
And you've experienced this your whole life. It's not like this is something new, but the programming is so eloquent. I am in awe of the heliocentric programming. That's why I'm still keen to chat to Globeheads about how it works more, because the intricacies of it are astounding. Yeah, it's had a lot of great minds working on it. It is still a deception, and it's even so complicated that many of the people who are perpetrating the deception may work their entire lives to essentially perpetrate a lie in a better way and never even be aware of it themselves. To me, that's astounding. I mean, it's so cool.
In a way, it is a giant theoretical simulation. In a way, like it's that simulated, it's like the world built up in that way, and they keep on theorizing on about it and just making it bigger and bigger, but never really, but you never really, they never figure it out, but they just keep on building on top of it,
and if they're doing some type of research into, either astronomy or going through, whatever type of science teaching that they're into, while they're in school, they have their professor telling them. Now, if you have anomalies or questions that are asked, you're dependent on the teacher or some type of a peer-reviewed journal or other, experiment. And once you learn it, memorize it, understand that way, then now your brain is understanding it that way. And even the anomaly that you saw before, that you had a question about, that you had a theory about, that peer-reviewed journal told you exactly what it was. And so now all the rest of, and that's what I loved that King's the Throne book that Cathexis was bringing out and was reading on there, because I went ahead and read it, and it's exactly what happened. That is exactly how this came about, was through these scientists, seeing something, but also having these teachers that, no, this part's already figured out, and we're just building on top of it. They call it standing on the shoulders of giants or something like that. So.
And that's what it's all about. And this is the point. I'm saying that for me, it's now no longer necessarily about waking everybody up. It's more about realizing that you have an innate inner ability to discover the answer to any of these questions yourself, to go out and discover stuff and go, yeah, I don't know the answer to that. Well, let's have a look and find out.
Yeah.
As opposed to what the education system teaches you. I don't know that. Quick, let's Google it. Let's see what somebody who knows better than me tells me how that works. Now, I'm not saying that you throw the baby out with the bathwater and completely give up on any kind of research, but verification's so critical, isn't it? Actually
cross-reference. You compare it.
Yeah. Yes. See what both sides are saying about it.
Yeah.
And what rings true to you, or even there may be 3 or 4 sides to the story.
And 100 years ago, there were also people that did it, but they were the scholars, because you had to go into a library and spend like a week digging through all kinds of books to figure it out. And now any fool can just Google it, as Nathan just said, and just like intuitively dig through it very, very fast. So there's a lot of luxury in that in this age compared to before, where people really had to be so disciplined and dedicated to it just to get through it all.
Well, that's true, and it's a double-edged sword, because yes, it's a privilege that we can look up information quickly, but all the information is controlled. So you've got 2 sides of the coin. One side is the observation side, the experience side, the side of life that you go through and take in just by looking, just by being, just by breathing. Then there's the mental constructs that we have, the globe being one of them, where it's nothing to do with what you experience. It is just a mental construct backed up by pictures, backed up by education, backed up by the books, backed up by the Google searches, but backed up in every other regard, subliminally. So every poster, every advert, they're all using the same backdrops. The subtext in any movie, the plot of any movie, if it's sci-fi, always has a backdrop.
Programs.
The
always have the globe.
That you experience in life is telling you that you're on a globe. Only in terms of the mental acrobatics that you're going to program yourself to do. And it all comes back to, well, that's still down to you and your judgment. Do you accept it or don't you? Same as the judge in the courtroom. At the end of it, it doesn't matter how compelling you think your story is when you've told him. And if you believe that it's true, it doesn't matter either. It's the guy who makes the decision. Well, Flat Earthers told me that the guy who makes that decision about everything is me. No one else. I can make that decision, thank you. So that gives me quite a lot of confidence to say, well, I don't accept that. Well, it's how this is. That's Globehead reaction. Well, no, it's in this book. It's been accepted. It's the story.
There's a consensus.
I don't accept that story.
The science has been settled.
Yeah, the science has been decided. I don't care. I don't accept it. Well, you know, I want to change your... It's like, that's what you need to accept, Globehead. That you will never, ever make me come to a different decision. I will decide that. That's it. And that's what Flat Earth has given me. I'll decide what is real and what isn't. Thank you very much. You're not going to tell me. You can give me the information if you want, and I can judge for myself.
Yeah, and also this is probably even important, is that we kind of undid the whole "you're crazy" stigmata really well, because even 2 years ago, if you would start talking about Flat Earth, you would get called crazy. And you would be hurt by it. You would be, it would like, oh, damn it, but I'm real serious. Like, no, I'm not crazy. But now we know. Now we know about the globe heads. Now anyone can call us crazy, and then we know, you're just not informed.
I'm going to do this, I'm sorry. Stigmata, something totally different.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's all good, man.
It's all good. I'm just...
It's Easter, come on.
Hey, we understand what you said. I didn't even notice, man. I knew what you were saying, but I didn't even really notice.
It's Easter now, so stigmata is relevant, I guess.
Yeah, Easter stigmata.
It's appropriate at the least.
Oh yeah, by the way, I did something else. There was this show on the Netherlands TV today, like a big musical event where they reenacted in a modernized way the whole Christ thing with everybody was singing also, and the black Jesus, of course, and but that was really good. The music was amazing, like amazing. I've never expected that level of music. Like they combined everything, even almost rock elements with high classic stuff, violin works, and it was melodically amazing. I was just in awe of this. So
This is a Pentecostal church.
It was Catholic, but it was on the Dutch television. It was everywhere. It was an event. I think they do this every year. This was the 7th time, and now it was in Friesland, in the province, the northern province of the Netherlands, and they did it there. And it was very spectacular. It got a tear out of me at some point even. So it was really amazing. And they also dug into the psychology of it a lot. They really, you will see them acting out the scenes, but there were also meta talk. Like the presenter was also talking about, what must he be feeling right now? That kind of stuff. And it was nice. It was new. I liked it. It was interesting, and it was also like they specifically made it for Christians, but also for atheists. They even mentioned it, like, some of you will believe this, will take it very seriously, and others will just think it's an interesting event. And it was nice. I liked it. Anyway, just that little thing in between. It is Easter.
Ask Eli, some skeptics making. You said you've been doing this for years, but you didn't think any of it was fake. I think that's how you said it, until Flat Earth.
No. We've got on another subject before I finished telling. I became a 9/11 truther back in about 2005. So that's a long time ago. 12 years ago, I've been I was 9/11 truther. But prior to that, I had, the libertarian political philosophy, and I was still learning a lot of stuff. And that's when I started listening to Alex Jones, and every time he'd have a good guest on, I'd go research who they are, someone that I, connected with, and find out, it was a really good interview, see if they've interviewed someone else, and then go listen to that interview, go to their website, look up their articles and stuff like that. So,
yep.
So yeah, and the whole facade of the media started to break pretty quick after that. So, and and finding out more about how, the education system has been manipulated. So yeah, I was quite aware of that prior to Flat Earth.
Cool.
And what's that lady's name? The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America. She wrote a book called The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America. She used to work for the Reagan administration.
Oh yeah, I know. With the white hair, right?
Charlotte Iserbyt.
Yeah. Oh, amazing woman.
Yeah,
she would always be smoking cigars, right?
I don't know if I remember smoking a cigar, but
I think that was her, the old lady with the white hair, right?
Yeah, she's really old.
She was a cigar smoker.
Her father was in a Mason, and her grandfather were high level Masons and stuff like that. She talks about all that, and that's what she wrote. She wrote that book called The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America, and it's available free on PDF. So if you search that, it's a really good book. But I've listened to so many hours of her talk. She pretty much read the book to me. So
yeah, I liked her too. She was a really great guest always. Yeah.
What was the message? Turn off your TV.
Sorry?
Pardon me?
What was her message?
Her message, I mean, what she discovered while working for the education department under Reagan is that there were forces in there, trying, basically to program students, how that they had the knowledge coming down from the top that they were going to put into the public schools, and it's going to be by the funding,
Yeah, and police
you don't
state
follow this program, you don't get the funding, and so then and we already know that, but that's she exposes that entire program, how it's supposed to be manipulated on purpose, and I mean, a lot of people my age say they weren't taught evolution in school. I was, man, I'm in Arkansas, so I didn't really think, I thought we always got everything last. But anyway.
Yeah.
But all that programming was in there, the evolution stuff before I even learned it in 10th grade. They had it in cartoons when I was a little kid.
Yeah, it was everywhere in cartoons, indeed. And space, of course. It was all there. It was all there. Like just Transformers, man. I was such a fan of that. I dreamed about that, and it was all there. The robots and space and other planets, and they talked about evolution all the time, and like, oh, Transformer. Yeah, we actually came here millions of years ago during the dinosaurs, and then we waited another million years. Yeah. It was all there, in there, and it was amazing. I loved it. I still do in a way. But yeah, I know it's a lie now. But
yeah. It's a lot different watching it now than it was back then.
Yeah.
Well, even prior to finding about the flat Earth, there was, I was not an evolutionist, of course. I never believed evolution. So I was trying to put together how these balls in space, if evolution is not true, then what did God or the Creator do to make this happen this way? So now it's a different construct in my mind, and I still don't know how he did it, but
well, that's funny because I started to doubt evolution like way before Flat Earth, way before the 2015 awakening. I got into Kent Hovind. Well, I talked about it like with the other guy that also mentioned Flat Earth at one time and got into trouble. We were already deep into the whole, evolution is fake and why, and all this amazing creationist data. Like, how does granite work? It can't be shaped over time. It has to be instantly created, or certain radioactive elements in it would dissipate. And it doesn't. It's there. So it must have been formed instantly. There's no other way.
And where did that come from? Kent Hovind. So like in the same exact vein that we have quite a huge, and I'm not going to understate it, a huge Christian following debunking the heliocentric model, you've also got the Christians, and it's great information, I'm not going to lie, pulling apart the science of evolution. And as I've said about 5 times already on this show, it's just the fallback. It's the older system having the answers, so that when you go, well, wow, obviously these scientists have got it wrong. And who's told me it? Well, this Christian guy. So they must be right. Well, no, unfortunately not. That's just another control structure there to control you. So just because the Christians are the best people to debunk evolution doesn't necessarily mean that they're right, but it doesn't mean that they're not valid in their debunking either. It just means that they have also got a belief system. The thing is with that, it's right there in the title. They tell you it's a belief system, and it's used by the Christians as a defense. Well, yes, it's my faith. It's like, that's so frustrating, because they're pulling apart people's science that they quote as being factual and real, and then fall back on their own self-asserted beliefs. So where do you go when you're trying to debate that with them? You know, you earlier boiled it into, well, some of the Bible has got factually accurate historical information, and some of it is essentially fantasy, and the two are mixed together. And then you gave the analogy of dicing up a rock. Well, the rock would be the history. We're never going to ever see that again, ever. We're not going to see what happened.
Unless you time travel back into the past.
Wow, okay, that aside, you know, we're never going to find out what that rock looked like today, because it's not like that today. It's been shattered. It's the broken glass thing. It's about, you know, if you film a glass and smash it and go back in time and bring it back, will it be still smashed, etc., etc. You know, the fact is the rock that you used in your analogy has been cut up, and it's had very, very clever man cut up that story, that historical record, so that it leads you down certain paths. That's all fact. That's all. Even the Christians will admit to this. They're the ones pulling it apart and saying, well, look how they've skewed this writing. Yeah, so you're admitting it, that there's very clever men who work on it to deceive or to push an agenda. And they'll just say, well, that doesn't change the fact that Jesus is real and I still follow that person, even though he's been engineered into the story in certain ways. I mean, we're back on this subject, but it's hard not to be, without realizing that, like with the creation story or the evolution story, you've got a nice paradigm. One says there was a young Earth creation story. One says there's a 16 billion year old out of Big Bang theory, and the two aren't one coin. You haven't only got one choice in that. Yeah, you can watch the Christians pull apart that theory and go, okay, so it isn't an evolution story that's brought us into being. But you don't then have to say, well, the person who gave me that information must be right then. And the same is said for flat Earth. Just because there's a lot of wonderful Christians doing wonderful work pulling apart the heliocentric model, it doesn't mean that you then have to believe in their belief. Also, just pay attention to their information when they debunk it, or and they do it with a lot of videos. I get into a lot of debates. He's a wonderful videographer, but with The Truth is Stranger Than Fiction, a Christian channel for the most part, does wonderful flat Earth work. I love his videos. He and I are at each other's throats. He watches my videos as well. And, you know, if we put each other in, if we were in the same room together, I know we'd have a laugh. But we are at polar opposites in our opinions in terms of this subject. So I'll watch his videos. It gets to 80% of the way through, and then he draws a non sequitur conclusion that obviously affirms his belief in Jesus. And I sigh every time, because up until that 80% point of his video, it's been wonderful. But then he tells you to believe what he believes and shows you the conclusions, and he'll give you all the passages in the world, like they all do. I mean, being a little derogatory in my words, I can't help it. It's not intentional. It's just the way I'm phrasing it off the cuff. But that's how it is. You know, they will say this means God. This means Jesus. Here's what it says in the Bible that proves that. You're like, okay. But you've just literally said this person believes that the Earth's spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, and it's not because X, Y, and Z that disproves that. But now you're saying, here's my belief from my book. It's like,
oh, maybe it's just something different. It's another thing. I experience this while I go to church as well, is that I can have amazing conversations with these people and really get into the theoretical part and the psychology part of many aspects, and have open, very deep conversations, even draw in pretty radical and sometimes creepy elements. And then that would work fine, but there will always be moments where they then suddenly just switch for a moment and say like, but we believe this, you know. They do that, but that's it's the same as what globe heads do. They can't help. It's part of it's that's what belief is, but that doesn't mean it's always that. Like some people will always only think about trying to convert others, only trying to convince others, but many Christians just have that, but can also have like really interesting open conversations. So, but they'll likely always have that moment where they have to do their Christian faith thing, as it were, because they just have to, because otherwise they wouldn't feel good about themselves anymore when they went to church, probably.
It's all about having big brother character. And I don't know, I've asked a few people about this. Maybe I should ask you two both the same question. So a lot of flat earthers will say that the notion of a creator is a self-evident truth. Would you agree?
Well, well, yes. Technically, yes. Because it is created, this world, because there's no other way, because there's too many details that prove that it could only have been created. And if there was a creator, then there must be, or if it was created, then there must be a creator. So, but what was that? Who was that? When?
Well, before you, I'll get you to detail it, but heliosceptic, what say you?
It appears that there's a creator. At this point, I won't go into detail. Yes, to me, it seems obvious and always has that there was a creator. I had different ideas about it, throughout my life, and I've studied the Christian faith quite a bit, and I was Pentecostal for like 10 years, and so I mean, but that's why I had so much trouble figuring out, how did God do this with these balls everywhere? And they say they were all after the Big Bang, and they started coming together. And I'm like, no, because I was a geocentrist at that point. Because because in the first part of the Bible, it says that He created the earth first, and then the fourth day He created sun, moon, and stars. So I was like, okay, now I know they're lying about the Big Bang. But I'm still, there's balls up there flying around in space, and everything. I believed all the heliocentric stuff, and I knew that since evolution wasn't true, there couldn't be any aliens because they didn't gradually evolve on another planet, out there somewhere, and we're going to come and invade us because
How many years was that? How many years were you in that? Because that sounds like pretty rough cognitive dissonance to juggle all those balls for you cognitively. That's hard work.
It's just, man, 15 years, I don't know, a long time before flat earth. Yeah, it was, because I knew there was no aliens or evolution was not true, but I still believed in the heliocentric model. And I was still a science fiction fan, going to all the Star Wars movies and space movies and stuff like that. I loved them, still do. I still watch them. But
would I be right in saying that when you found out the earth is flat, that it was a massive relief, that you feel a lot better now? Am I right?
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. That's for sure. It makes a lot more sense, trying to figure out, that God didn't do it this way. Well, I mean, at first, I was like, well, okay, he made it a ball. He put it in the middle, put the universe around it, so that's, but it's just it does make a lot more sense, that the sky is spinning instead of us, because like I was saying, why is it so hard to find a curve? Why is it so hard to figure out you're not moving, that the earth is not moving and it's stationary? You have to actually go outside of yourself, like, outside of what you experience to believe something. That's a belief. It is. And freaking atheists, and I've been telling atheists that, I was like, man, atheism's a religion, man. Mm-hmm. They always hated that.
Yeah. Well, the globe is a mental construct.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've been telling atheists that atheism is a religion for a long time. So flat Earth, it's even easier, man. I'll tell you every time. Every atheism to religion, it's not a heliocentric, man. We're a geocentric. Stars and the sun and moon revolve around us, and explain evolution with that.
So go on then. I'm going to push you both on it. So you both said pretty much the same thing as I've heard from everyone else, which is that, well, you've started by making a conclusion that obviously it's created. So let's start there. You said it, Arwin. You said, well, it is created. So from that, there must be a creator. So, well,
yeah. Well, the thing is that it was like a stepping stone, as I said. I believed in space, like very vivid. I loved it so much. I was thinking, like, yeah, when I grow up, I want to help design the future space station, and I know how to do it. I was that much into it. I really wanted to do it, and I was like preparing to dedicate myself to this. And on the way, I pretty much ran into Kent Hovind and to creationism, and that changed everything, but not that much, because, well, aliens and all that, it still can fit. Like, they can still fit creationism into the space and everything by saying, like, yeah, we were created by ancient aliens, and look, it's now out there. It's becoming a mainstream thing now, a mainstream alternative thing, just like Alex Jones is now a mainstream alternative news.
Okay, but regardless,
but flat Earth is not in there.
If it's creatures from the sky or gods or God or
think
whatever,
the movie Prometheus. They made movies now. So
whatever story you like, but forget that who part, the anthropomorphized part of God. Let's get back to the creation itself then. So I say, which comes first, chicken or egg?
And I say egg. Absolutely egg.
Well, no, you don't say that. You say God.
No, but that's not the question. Well, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Well, technically the egg, because if a chicken was evolved or not a chicken yet, then the egg would have come from something that was not quite a chicken yet. So in that case, the egg would always be first.
Right, so for the chicken not to have been laid, it was created by something. And your answer before was to say that obviously life is created, therefore God. So you're saying that
no, that's no
into being because something put it there, not a chicken.
No, I never accepted it was God. I always saw God as just a super entity, basically, something magnificent. I didn't even think like he was the creator, because that's what religion basically say. Like he's the everything. I never believed
the anthropomorphization, if that's even a word, of God into a person or being. I mean, you're saying an entity. That's the same thing. I'm saying forget the who bit. I'm saying that if the question is phrased, which came first, chicken or egg, right? It's not a perpetual loop, because that in essence is the question of how did things come to be? What was the start? You can't forever go back. See, I say you can't answer this question. You can't go back to the point where you can figure out which one came first. You can't. But everyone else tells me, well, obviously, there's a creator or an entity or whatever that put the egg or the chicken there, and then the chickens were there because this thing or this power or this whatever made it so. Well,
now I'm thinking again.
Oh, hold on.
The egg only hatches one chicken, though.
Well, and an egg only hatches if a chicken sits on it, so it's warm enough. So technically, in that sense, it couldn't have been first because it needs a chicken to actually hatch.
Yeah, I don't go around in a circle of red. What I'm saying is, I'm saying, why is it obvious that there was something that created either the chicken or the egg? Because everyone who I ask this question says, yeah, creator, obvious. And I go, okay, tell me why it's obvious. And so far, for me, not so good. For other people, they've been waving flags. Dave Weiss put a video up of Infinite Planes Society's answer to that question when I interviewed him.
Oh, I love it. I love that you bring this up, this subject, because I have made like a creation story, and it also handles this subject, because I personally believe in this case, I think that's more logical, that things that we know that are here are probably created in different phases. I think that life was created in a different period, in a different phase than other things. So the proof of creation that I know, that I always drag back in there, of granite and the radioactive element in there, that doesn't necessarily mean that that was created by the same creator that created us. See? Because there is no direct link in that sense. It just means that whatever the earth was, that was created, but it doesn't mean that we necessarily were created at the same time by the same thing.
You've done it again. You've just gone, well, obviously that bit was created. And I'm saying, why?
No, but I told you, because it could not have been created. Granite could not have not been created because it cannot be gradually made. And if it's made instantly, then it must have been created, because nothing comes into existence instantly, because then the Big Bang would be, you know, that could
That's kind of like a bit of an adaptation of the evolutionary story, though, isn't it?
Not really.
That's how we came to things crashed into us, and the rocks melted the Earth, and we were a great big fire.
Well, but that's what they say. It's like the evolution of the Earth, the Big Bang and such. That's like their story, but that's absolutely cannot be. It's impossible.
On that point, Arwen, it seems like maybe you may be referring, if you've heard of it, to a study that Institute for Creation Research did on. They studied granite and found these radioisotopes. They were called radiopolonium halos. They were instantly captured inside this granite rock, which was because the half-life of polonium is just like a couple seconds or something like that. So it was these halos where they were exploding were captured inside this granite rock, which proves it was formed instantly. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because there's so much of it, like granite's everywhere. The Earth is covered in it, and it's still deep inside there even. So it cannot have been formed by lava or whatever, because then those isotopes would not be there. So it's a very basic thing, but it's very solid to me. It's very solid proof to me that it's basically the only proof that I really need to make a decision on that. Although it's very interesting to look further and see what else is out there.
So can I just get clarity, just so I know, so I understand your answer? So you're saying because there's plutonium isotopes, which has a very, very short half-life of only a few seconds, trapped within the construct of granite, which is a very slow-forming, they tell us is slow to form its crystalline structure, etc., etc. But that's only possible with a slow-decaying radioactive. Is it radioactive? Did you say?
No, what it is you can tell that it had decayed because of the halos. So
it's gone through a certain amount of decaying process.
It seems as the granite was forming, I guess polonium might have been part of the process, but since it has such a short half-life, that while the granite was forming, it captured a halo, which was showing the granite.
It was there, and then the polonium disintegrated basically on the spot.
Yeah, and it caused these halos inside the granite. So they were, it's one of the proofs that creationists used to prove that that the granite was formed instantly.
Instantly, that's it. It's basically instant formationism.
But how do you get from? I understand all that. How do you get from that to God? What's
no, God? Who's talking about? No, it's just a creator. It doesn't mean that it's God. It's just someone, an external thing had to do that. It could not have been shaped by itself.
But wouldn't that just suggest that we just don't understand the process of how that happens?
Yes.
Yes.
As opposed to saying that, well, it must have been created by something.
Well, creation is the only alternative that we know to coming into existence by its own. So, yeah, what else is there to call it?
But birth, because in the same way as the egg comes out of the chicken.
No, but birth, no. But because all births are based on things that grow. They don't instantly come into birth. No, they all grow in you. Everything grows that is born.
But we just don't read the process of how that rock was born.
Yeah.
How? No. I mean,
well,
it appears to be that it was created, but who did it and how?
Also,
that's up for.
There's another option.
I'm not debating whether or not that's the case. I'm just trying to understand your answer.
Now, there's another option, basically, and that is that there is technology or things or effects, maybe magic, that we have no idea of, that can instantly transform things. Because if that's there, then that's like the only alternative explanation as to why all that granite suddenly had all this radioactivity in it. Maybe there was some kind of field that was let loose upon the world that instantly transformed pieces of matter into other matter. I've heard this kind of thing. So that's the only alternative I can think of.
Why? I mean, I know you're looking for explanations. Everyone wants an answer to everything. And I understand that entirely. But to say that something is not understood and then say, well, this is the only possible other explanation.
That I can think of.
To say, we don't know. We haven't figured it out yet. What's wrong with that?
Well, I'd like to think about it. I didn't say, I just said this is the only thing that I can think of right now. I'm not saying that it must be that. It's like the only logical alternative. So.
Can you see why I've asked the question, though? Because what I get initially when I ask the question is almost like, well, it's obvious. And then when you dig into it a little bit, you find out that most people haven't really got... I mean, it's great. It's another answer. I've never heard it before. Maybe I should have. I've just not been turning over enough rocks. But you know what I mean? It's another answer. But again, I would just say, well, that's something to do with rocks that people haven't figured out yet. And I certainly haven't figured out. And there isn't an offhand answer. Even if there was, I'm sure there probably is from some scientist somewhere who would like to argue that he understands that process entirely. But that being the case doesn't necessarily mean that I'll accept his answer either. Do you see what I'm saying? So
yes. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Is kind of, I don't know, for me, it's just another answer. It's in no way compelling. So far, I've not heard anything that's compelled me to say that, you know, life came to pass through any sort of creation. Most things have got a birth story that I accept. And if I don't, I've looked into it, or I'd say I don't know. But I've not yet come to the point where I'd say, okay, I draw the obvious conclusion, far from that there's any sort of creator. I just simply don't know. Chicken or egg, I don't know what came before that. How the chicken or egg came to be, I simply don't know.
Well, I have to, yeah, it's difficult because you don't know what came before, but technically, like, I still am opinionated, I'll just call it, that life was designed. Like, I'm one of those guys that think that intelligent design, because of so many things that I heard.
That's pretty obvious.
Yeah, but like the eye, the thing like the eye, that's not something that gradually mutates or can even mutate into a function that it performs, because that could never work. Like, and so many things. Like, but that doesn't mean that all life, everything was always that. But it just means that the life that we know, that we have around us, is most likely to be created by something.
But I just see that as a paradigm that isn't necessary. So you've got the I've seen the accepted story, whatever they call it, for how the eye developed, and I don't buy it. I'm completely with you on that. But the flip side of that is back to, like Kent Hovind with any creation argument. It's to say that, well, the flip side is therefore a creator.
Yeah, but that's his answer.
God in yours, an ethereal being, whatever. It doesn't matter. But that's a paradigm that you don't need in your life. Or I don't need it. I can make that.
Yeah, I was going to say you don't need it, but some people do. Some people, you know, prefer to see it their way. You know, and
I don't need it either.
Have to try to convince anyone of it. I mean, I've been convinced of many things, and I've been unconvinced myself of something that I was convinced of at one time. So, you know, it's for everybody's path, and it's good for all the information to be out there. But sometimes it is vitriolic against Christians. I agree with with Paula. So, and so that's just, I mean, I was a Christian for a long time, and I experienced it, and it's not something that they take lightly, and it's more likely to push them away, especially when it comes to trying to teach them about flat Earth, and you've got that message mixed in there. And there are a lot of Christians that can see flat Earth right off the bat, you know. So I think it really, to me, is not the most important thing, you know. So just me. I mean, everybody's got their own ideas about how to spread the word, but that's personally.
Yeah, well said. That's what it's all about. You say that's just me, and that for me is what flat Earth is about. The self-realization. They're going, well, I can make my decision on that, and I don't really need anybody else's help. I don't need the thought police. I can decide.
Sure.
And
flat Earth independence.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what it is. It's about saying that, but that goes on further. We talked about it at the beginning of the conversation when we talked about your political views and how mine have started to become more prevalent because of flat Earth. Because, you know, having none or not caring and just allowing things to happen isn't good either. That's something else that you realise from flat Earth. Yeah. But you do realise that you have the power, and I'm not going to even put that in quotes, the power of one. And that's quite significant. You can do a lot as an individual. There's a huge amount you can do.
As long as you don't let that power, that agency be taken away from you. That's it.
Exactly. And by realizing it, there's certain things that you can say, I won't agree with doing this, I won't do that. And, you know, the power to disagree is also very, very powerful. So, yeah, but most people will go along with everything that they're told, everything that they're demanded of by their controllers, by our jailers, by whatever you want to call them, our slave masters.
Society.
That's
what they call it.
Yeah. And because, you know, social conformity, whatever, 101 different reasons for why people just do exactly as they're told and instructed. And now, because of realizing the biggest lie ever, you go, nah, I don't want to do that no more. No thanks. I can do a lot more than I thought.
Yeah. And you also realize that you need, once you figure this out, you figure out, wait, I need to pay more attention. I need to, that's it. You need to pay more attention because there are so many things fake out there and people abusing that. So you just, you fall back onto yourself. Well, before that, you're just in a state of hypnotism, just used to get along with everyone. And, oh, yeah, he's always speaking the truth. Yeah. And then you get this, and it's like, whoa, wait, I have to actually pay attention or I'll get in trouble. That kind of thing. And it helps. It strengthens your character in a way if you don't go nuts by losing family support and all that. I don't know. How did that go with you, by the way, Nathan? The whole flat Earth. Because I know that your wife and your kid, they're all okay, of course. But the rest of the family, how do they take it? The flat Earth.
They're cool. I mean, most of them have been really. I'm fairly. You know, I'm quite abrasive at times, so I will talk about it whether they like it or not. So it's one of them. They've kind of had to accept it, not the flat Earth concept, but the fact that I talk about it. And they're, you know, for the most part, they're cool. You know, I've got a very tight family, so I could do weirder things and they'd still love me.
Nice. Yeah. Well, my family knows.
Helioskeptic, have you lost any friends or family over this?
I think he went to the toilet or something.
What about you then, Alwyn? Have you lost friends and family?
Yeah. And how? My God. No, yes. Let's just say I have a brother, and I'm not even going to start about this with him. Well, he has a family with young kids, so. And like the first time I asked something, and he like immediately like, yeah, of course, space, all that stuff. NASA, yeah, what about it? So I said, okay, let's just not go there, because he's actually a calm guy now, and we used to have like fights over everything. So let's not light that fire back up again. And well, for the rest, my father has been pretty cool about it. very reserved, very distant. But over time, as I brought in more details, he was able to accept it in a way that he would accept it equally to the globe story, like that. But basically, he doesn't really care. That's yeah, it sounds kind of apathetic, but when it comes down to it, he doesn't really care about it because he's very zen in that way. So there's nothing is real to him when it comes down to it in that sense. And for the rest, yeah, I've lost almost all my friends because of flat Earth. Sounds really harsh, but yeah.
Yeah, but you're like me. You've realised the deeper significance, and you're now looking into it further because an appreciation of that deeper significance leads you down a whole load of other rabbit holes. And for me, all of them are good. Yeah, there's a lot of conspiratard nonsense out there that you do end up wasting time on, because TV, it's something that I've cut out my life a few times, and now is one of them. I'm just not interested. So some of the channels will put a lot of stuff from TV on them, and I kind of put it on for a minute and go, "You're poisoning me, YouTube.
Yeah, it's boring."
you're just perpetrating their lies onto me by saying, "Look, they're lying." You know, it's the guy at the beach with the 3-card Monty, and it's the guy standing next to it going, "Look, he's ripped me off." And the guy in a distance can't hear what he's saying, but comes in closer, and then before you know it, he's playing. Despite the fact that there's some guy screaming, "Look, he's ripped me off." Doesn't matter. That guy screaming, "He's ripped me off," draws a crowd. And 2 or 3 of those crowd, they're going to play the 3-card Monty and also get ripped off. The way it was. Well, the shill wins, and then they pack up and disappear. Meanwhile, the guy comes back the following day and starts shouting again. "Look, here he is again, setting up, cheating people." Well, that's what a lot of channels do. You know, the TV, my advice, turn it off. Just ignore it. Never turn your back on it, burn it, chuck it out, never buy another set-top box in your life.
Mine broke.
But then
literally, mine broke. Doesn't work anymore.
Don't fix it.
No, I don't. I don't have the money for that. So,
but you still have YouTube, and I bet you still get poisoned by a lot of news stories.
Well, I don't click on them really. Just as soon as you know how I notice that it's TV or TV-ish? By the people in it being sick. Like, there's this culture thing, and I call it communist culture. It's basically the same source as the whole social justice warrior thing, where people are just derailing their own logic and their own feelings, and they get this weird radiance over them, like whatever they do, and they do much. These people are all over TV shows now, and I just know it's like, oh God, not that again, you know. I get away from those people basically. And flat Earth, well, there's an other set of people. We got our own types of weirdos, but many are just really awesome.
And can I just ask you, have you lost friends and family over flat Earth, or have you kept it quite private?
Heliocentric?
Are you asking me?
Yeah. I asked Darwin when you disappeared, but yeah, have you lost friends and family over this subject, or is it something that you've kept to yourself?
No, I haven't kept it to myself. Everybody knows, but we don't talk about it much. But it's funny. My brother, he asks me questions sometimes. Like today, I can't remember how it came up, but he said we were talking about a planet. No, well, anyway, we were talking about a planet or something, and he's like, "Well, where did the word planet come from?" And I couldn't think of it off the top of my head, but I said, "Man, just take the T off the end, and what does it say?" He started laughing, all that stuff. But then I looked it up on Wikipedia, and it's derived from the Greek word for wandering stars. So then I knew that, but I just couldn't pull it up at that time. But he asked me questions all the time, and I've taught him about perspective, you know, compared to what the heliocentrists say about, you know, the sunset and all that stuff. But yeah, my family, I haven't lost any friends and family. I had friends that they knew everything, you know, but I'm just really calm about it. You know, I'd be like I'm saying about our beliefs with each other. You know, we believe in flat Earth, man. As far as I'm concerned, that's good enough, man. I'm cool with you if you're flat Earth, or I'm cool if you're not. You know, if you just can't see it and you don't really want to talk about it, then I'm not going to make you. But you just know that I am, and I'm going to talk about it whenever every chance I get. You know, every opportunity. I can talk about other stuff, but I'm not necessarily interested into. You know, it's kind of like you have to put it kind of facade on sometimes. You know, but it's just part of life, and I've been doing that before Flat Earth anyway, because I always wanted to talk about conspiracy theory, or you know, what's going on with the government, or even social issues and stuff like that. So no, I haven't actually lost any friends or family, and they probably, there ain't no telling what they think about me, but they still love me. They act like they do anyway.
I mean, if you want to talk about things like government, often that's a turn off for some people, and for those people, you just don't talk about it. And for me, I'm into hi-fi. Now, it's a very innocuous subject. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not going to offend anybody. But for some people, it's going to bore the tits off them. You know, it's a really boring subject, and they're not going to be interested. Therefore, if I bring up the subject of hi-fi and they're not interested, normally they'll be nonchalant or not interested, and that's obvious. Now, Flat Earth, why wouldn't it be anything like that? Why wouldn't it? It's just an astrological subject. It's, you know, I used to put it in that category on YouTube, astrology, and yeah, you know, it's an interesting subject to talk about. There's some conspiratorial elements that might put some people off and go, well, that's silly. Obviously, we've got the pre-programming that it's laughable. But why would it be that we get people like, quote unquote, Tim Osman, Jem Panda, creating his 50 accounts? Why do people want to ridicule us? You know, I went into Steve Torrance, is it, whatever the guy's name is, chat the other day, and I was chatting away with one of his guests in his chat room, and we were chatting about stone circles. It was someone from up north, and we were talking about Stonehenge and various subjects. Then she found out I was a flat earther, and immediately she started to ridicule me. It's like, hang on a second, we've been having a perfectly pleasant conversation. I'm not interested in talking about flat earth. It happened to come up because one of the panelists was a flat earther, you know, a guy I've not heard of, really nice guy, again, happened to be a Christian. But I was like, hold on, I'm just having a conversation here. I happen to agree with one point the panel guys made, but if that same guy in the panel had said, I really like Rotel amplifiers, and I typed into that, I like Rotel amplifiers too, and then she turned around and went, you fucking moron, you're obviously brain dead if you like Rotel amplifiers. It's like, what the fuck is your malfunction? Whoa, whoa.
Hey, you must be deaf. Yeah, if you're into hi-fi, then you must be deaf from all the loud music. Yeah.
You like amplifiers. Like, what kind of nonsense is this? I agree with his astrology. So what? But suddenly, that means that I've got to be ridiculed. Well, we were just talking quite coherently about the stone circles of Britain. We're, you know, I don't know your educational background. She doesn't know mine. We're just two people in a chat room. And it's not like in that chat room, she's suddenly going to change my belief. Are you having a laugh? You think you're going to suddenly change my views in this chat room? What, are you nuts? But you're calling me nuts. What? How is this? You know, it's the most psychopathic thing ever.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, if everybody notices, I don't chat a whole lot. I'll say hi to people, or if I'm responding to something somebody said in there, I don't, you know, go in there and chat a lot. But I, you know, I have a Facebook page. I don't even share on there a lot. But one of my friends that I used to go to church with shared on his page when Shaq, you know, said he was a flat earther. He put the article up, and he said, I can't remember what he said. He said, I would laugh, but it's just sad. And I don't talk about flat earth on my main Facebook page for the most part. I put a few things on there, but for the most part, I don't like post up and argue with my friends all day about flat earth. It's just not something I do. And but this one post, I was like, since he brought it up, I'm gonna go on there, and I said it's true, but it's no laughing matter. So he texted me back, and at first they thought I was kidding. They were like laughing about it, you know, but then he typed a big long thing about asking me all the basic questions. They're both going over the curve and all that stuff. And I said, man, I just don't. We're not going to change each other's mind, and I'm not going to sit here and type out paragraphs to try to convince you of anything. You know, I said there's some great videos, and I posted, you know, since he's a Christian, I posted that Celebrate Truth video, the Scientism Exposed video, which is excellent. And that's an excellent video, no matter if you're Christian or not. I mean, that pretty much puts it all out there.
Imagine a scenario where your friend, the same day, reads an article, or tomorrow he reads an article in a paper, similar situation to Shaq, and it says, Michael Jordan says the president is a reptilian, right? Just for the sake of argument, right? Michael Jordan says he believes that the elites are reptilians. That's a feasible story, right? There's a few people who believe that shit. I mean, that.
I got one for you.
No, just let me get to my point now. Hold on. So you have that scenario, and you text him and go, yeah, I agree, because he happens to get in touch. Yeah. Do you think it would end up in him quoting all of the anti-reptilian stuff to you in a text? Do you think it would be the same scenario if it was reptilians as opposed to flat Earth that Michael Jordan had come out with that day? Do you think it would have got the same reaction?
That's why I'd rather have a conversation about it than do their text.
That's it. But all I'm trying to get at is that with flat Earth, it seems like one of those subjects, unlike, I mean, even aliens, it doesn't, you've only got to look in, I can remember in my history, you know, just in my lifetime, aliens used to be ridiculous. Now they're a mathematical certainty.
In the 90s, they were ridiculous, and then X-Files came and they switched it around.
Now it's perfectly feasible, but that's just another concept. It's just another idea. Flat Earth's no different to aliens as a concept, as an idea. And most, you know, some people will say, well, what difference does it make? Therefore, who cares to a lot of people? So why in a majority of people would it drum up the reaction it does, which is to immediately label the person you're talking to as a buffoon, as a philistine, as a retard?
Oh, probably because of the conditioning, because the first time in school, they probably spontaneously thought, yeah, sure, it's flat. And then they got really, really punished for it in front of everyone. I remember that happening to me also. So that's the reaction. It's like a very ancient pain that's being triggered. And you never get, or before that, it's very unlikely you'd ever been triggered by that, or very seldomly, and you forget about it immediately. So it's like an ancient pain coming back to you, and it's like you want revenge for that, so you start ridiculing.
Yeah, I see it as when Helioskeptic said earlier that he's got the Christian and the heliocentric belief all at the same time. I mean, that's torture. That's probably why you found flat Earth. But for most people, the torture's not quite as severe as that, but it's still mental gymnastics. You know, in order to believe that you're on a spinning ball flying through space, you've got to be in cognitive dissonance most of the time that you're thinking about it. And if you study it, all you're doing is bolstering the programming, bolstering the brainwashing. And that
exactly. And it makes you more susceptible. Makes you more susceptible, and that's what I was trying to tell Arvin earlier. I'm not trying to convince you of anything, but that you are under a spell, or the mass public is under a spell, and that is a very large key to the spell, and it makes us easier. You know, if you believe that, then you believed everything, and then you trust the people that told you that to tell you the truth about other things as well. So then you're going to follow suit for the most part. But there's always it's not just they say this, I believe this. It's not like what they say North Korea is and everybody believes the same thing, which we know. We've heard people come out of North Korea, interviews with them, and they tell if you do not follow the custom, or think that Kim Jong-un's a freaking god or whatever, then but which there are millions or hundreds of thousands in there that probably don't, but they have to go along or they're going to get killed or something. But some people have escaped from that, and we've escaped from that understanding of reality. But it does make being under that spell and trusting those sources of information, it makes you very susceptible, even though they give you many different interests, many different rabbit trails that you can go down. It's really hard to find the truth, and it's still hard for me to find the truth at this point.
It's harder when you realize who's policing it. It's us. When the reason everyone starts labeling everyone else as shills is because up until the point that you realize where the deception lies, and you turn around against the crowd and say we're all being lied to, the crowd are the ones that try and get you back into line.
Yeah. They're all the deputies.
Yeah, they're all been deputized into this thought police process of telling you that you're on a globe. So they're going to tell you pretty quick, sharp that you're incorrect, that they've been educated, and that you are, by thinking that, a an uneducated Philistine. That's what they tell you in school.
They've been initiated. It's not educated, it's initiated.
Well, yeah, it's initiation, but what they actually tell you is we, the collective, used to think it was flat. Now we know better. Now we've got a lot of proof that proves it. You don't need to think about it anymore. But the smart people know it's a globe. The thickos, they used to, when they were thick back in the day, back to the evolution story, when we were a bit less developed, a bit more like monkeys, we didn't think it was then.
Yep.
I gotta tape up my knuckles every day, man. You know.
You're a monkey. You're a thicko.
Yeah, but apparently we evolved pretty rapidly after the medieval times, that we were still so stupid to believe that the Earth is flat back then. Like, but yeah, we found a lot. Yeah, we expanded the amount of theory based upon the original lie. There's so much now that yes, it's more convincing because it's just a bigger story now.
It's a better story. That's why I'm saying
more pictures, and
it's a masterful, incredible, wonderfully constructive story. Because yeah, you compare it to North Korea, and it's their story of getting Kim Jong-un to be God is a much more flimsy story when you look from the outside in, and they're ruling with an iron fist to attain the same result as we have in the Western world. As is a 500-year. Much more complex deception that I described it as having lots of cracks being filled in with bullshit. But that deception still works without needing the iron fist, because the powers that should not be have utilized that power of one. So when I say, oh wow, it's a great discovery to realize that you can ask questions, you can realize you don't know everything, and that's empowering. I put all that in the bit of this show. But the elites have realized that they can utilize that power, the power of one, the power of me, to protect their bullshit for everyone around them. In other words, they don't need Big Daddy government to come round to my house, knock on my door and say, you think it's a globe? Because my wife, she's sat there. She does it every day. She's more happy to keep the status quo. So she's the thought police, essentially. That's, I joke with her about it, but that's the reality of everybody's situation. You don't need a shill because everyone else around you is already policing this idea for them.
And they even brought this very forward in the book 1984, where the children do the thought policing. It's already that, actually.
Spot on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah, they've got Think Stop and the thought police, and yes, essentially the kids are reporting people. Oh, he doesn't think this, and that's how it is today.
Yeah.
Oh, the teacher called one of the students a nigger. Oh, right. Well, time to have a town meeting then. Time to burn the teacher and ostracize the teacher because she shouldn't be saying that word. Well, really? I thought people could say whatever they liked. I thought they could exercise. No. That person's got to. In other words, it's the taught from the schools that the politically correct values of our society should be policed by the children. They know it better than I do. They're the ones who've got policemen, in Britain at least. The kids, the lippy kids, are the ones mouthing off to the coppers because they understand how the language works better than we do. And they've been trained by the elites to do it.
Yeah. And now we have social justice warriors.
They are.
And now we have the social justice warrior movement, which is even worse, where they actually degenerate language and try to make us do the same. They also did that with the kids.
That's it. A whole new topic.
No, hey, let's not get into that too much.
I have an example of the kid thing. My son, when he came home from first grade, and I was abusing drugs, back then, pretty heavily. Me and my wife would, we sent him to school. We were, quote unquote good parents. We were home every night, everything. But we hid all that stuff from him. We weren't like just, if we were going to get high or whatever, we'd do it, hide it from him, of course, any good parent would do that. And but he came home in first grade talking about, he always asks, what'd you learn at school today? And then he starts talking about drugs, talking about marijuana and cocaine and stuff like that. Like, you're not supposed to know about that, but they have these DARE officers in school, DARE to and I think it started with Nancy Reagan, you know, back in the 80s, and it just slowly implemented. And this was, I mean, he'll be 21 this year, and this was back in his first grade, right at 2000. Yeah, he came home telling me about drugs. Yeah,
and it's gotten worse because now they talk about sex to very, very young children.
I was just about to talk about this because they do and they don't. So when this was, this is going back 5 years now in Britain, they started talking about the sex education that they were going to give to very, very, very young children, sort of preschoolers even. And I thought, oh, this is an interesting subject. I wonder what they're teaching them. And what are they teaching them about what's wrong and where people might touch them in the wrong places? I was like, what? This isn't sex education. This is like almost what's the word? Anti-sex abuse education.
Yeah.
The fuck. This isn't what I want. Certainly,
rape prevention.
You know, I don't want to. I don't want a preschooler to be learning about condoms either. But you know, you want them to be learning that there's intimacy in life, because that's something that they know.
Yeah.
From an early age, if they haven't experienced it at home already. In other words, if there's parents that are single parents that have got kids in school, they may not learn about that through their home life. You know, I know for a fact my kid's going to learn that people are intimate by seeing how me and my wife are. You know, she's going to see that. So that's certainly not going to be hidden. But there's going to be kids that would benefit from that. But will they benefit from learning that you don't touch, you touch here, but you don't touch here? It's like, why do you need to teach a preschooler about what not to do in terms of what amounts to sexual abuse if it was to happen? It just seems bonkers. But it's
oh, and I have another example too.
Sexual abuse, as opposed to what I would call good sex education, which it isn't.
Well,
none of it is taught by someone else. It's supposed to be taught by your parents, or it's something you figure out yourself. You don't need another adult telling you, that. I mean, you may trust your teacher, but most parents don't know the teachers that well. You know what I mean? So, honestly, in my opinion, that's the way it should be. I mean, my mom never said. My dad died when I was young, so me and my mom never talked about it. I figured this shit out. But, well, I mean, they told me in school, but that I wasn't. I don't feel like I was affected that much by it. Maybe I could be wrong about that. But I had another incident. I think he was in 6th grade. I was taking him home from school, and I asked him the question, "What did you learn about in school today?" And you won't believe what he told me. He said that they were talking about in science class about how they're sending these ships out into the ocean to spray in the sky to block out the sun to prevent global warming. God's honest truth. He told me that. And I was like, son, they're already doing it, but it's in the sky with airplanes. And he was in 6th grade then, so that was probably shit.
How old is he then?
He was, I guess, 12. Yeah. And he'll be 21, so that's about 9 years ago. And I already knew about the chemtrail thing at that time, so I said, man, they're already doing it. He doesn't really get into it like I do, but I still talk to him, but he knows what's up with me. But,
yeah. That's ridiculous.
But he came. I mean, like I said, both times he brought it up to me. And
it's the school that's telling him it, and obviously you can't be in the classroom to know and analyze the spin, and it's going to be carefully thought out by. It's back to your analogy with the big gemstone. That's another of the old rock, isn't it? And it's going to be carefully crafted. The light's going to shine through that stone in that classroom the way they want it to.
Yeah. So, hey guys, it's been really nice, but I'm getting kind of hungry, and we've been on for, well, at least 3 hours now. So I want to cut it off, basically. You guys wanted to say anything else, or wanted to add something more before we end the show?
Avatar. What's the face? It's like a mask.
Heliosceptic.
Yeah.
You're talking about me? Oh, I'm sorry. That's an accidental selfie I found on my phone.
I wish I had that. It's you. It's beautiful, man. Beautiful.
Okay, so you have a beard.
Looks lovely.
I have a long goatee. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, well, people, thank you for joining me on the show again. And sorry I was a little bit late. And thank you, Heliosceptic, for joining me, and you too, Nathan. It was
Before
great.
you tell your audience, say like, make sure you subscribe to Arwin.
Oh, yeah. What Nathan said. I never do this, but yeah, it would be nice to subscribe to me and also to Nathan and Heliosceptic. Especially Nathan's very active. And,
no, you're right, Nathan. I'm sorry to interrupt, but yes, we have to start doing that for each other. Even in the chat room, check out someone's channel if they're subscribed to other people that you like. If you feel, go ahead and subscribe to their page. I mean, it's important that we start to build everybody up, because the more likes you get on your page, the more subscriptions you get, the more people will find your Flat Earth page in the search for Flat Earth.
Yep. Yeah, so thanks indeed. I should probably do it more, but I have not been very active before this Hangout. Been like months in between, so yeah, it feels like, yeah, I could ask them to subscribe, but yeah, I wouldn't be offering much. But I'm planning to do it more, so...
Subscribe to Arwin if you know what's good for you.
Yeah. And to Nathan and to Heliocentric would be nice. And thank you everyone for joining, and yeah, have a good night or a good evening, and keep it flat. And thanks for coming.
Thank you, Arwin.
Yes. See you guys.
Nice to meet you.
How do you stop? Oh, yeah. No, wait. How do you
stop broadcast at the bottom? Subscribe to Nathan Oakley 1980.
Yeah. Okay. Good night, everyone.